To me, bodybuilding is an art form where everyone can sculpt physique created in their imagination. I have always admired strong, muscular, and aesthetically pleasing physiques, and that's why I started training 20 years ago. I am pleased and proud to say that my imagination from 2 decades ago now appears in front of me every time I look in the mirror. In this video, I will share my views and experiences with you, and I sincerely hope that you will find this information valuable. As my childhood hero, Bruce Lee, would say, use no way as a way and no limitation as limitation. There are no set rules that you have to go by. You just accept what you find useful, discard what you think is useless, and create what is essentially your own training method. This is the best known exercise for chest development. It involves muscles of pectoralis, anterior deltoid, serratus, triceps, and coracobrachialis. I like to use flat bench barbell press as a compound move, so-called power exercise for stimulation of fast-twitch muscle fibers responsible for size, strength, and bulk. I would use lighter weight to properly warm up, and once I warm up, I would choose the way that I can maximally lift for 6 repetitions using a strict form and full range of motion, like you can see here on video. I would perform 3 sets in this manner, having as much rest between sets as I need to be 100% ready for my following set. If I successfully finish all 3 sets with 6 repetitions, I would increase the amount of weight in my next training session. In True Bodybuilding video series, Training for Chest Tape, I will show you how to use different techniques, elbow positions, width of the grip, and ways to lower a barbell to different areas to completely change muscle fiber recruitment. Changing the angle on the bench and creating 30 to 60 degree incline would switch recruitment from the middle part of the chest to upper pec area, so-called clavicular portion of pectoralis major. This is another exercise that is a good choice for a compound move and muscle mass building. As white muscle fiber training is hypertrophy specific, we still have to use heavy weights and low repetitions. I would suggest additional 2 to 3 sets with maybe 6 to 8 repetitions each. As you're watching this video, I'm sure you would realize by now that I insist on slow, controlled, eccentric, or negative part of the movement, expanded rib cage, and specific elbow and shoulder joint positions. In specialized chest tape, I would explain why the tempo is a critical component, how to perform all 3 phases of the lift, concentric, eccentric, and isometric, and why rest intervals have to be in sync with muscle fiber type stimulation. How much time it takes your muscles and nervous systems to recover between 2 consecutive sets. A variety of angles are necessary for maximal development. Each angle recruits different muscle fiber. In case of chest muscles, decline barbell press greatly involves lower chest, or so-called sternal portion of pectoralis major. Also, serratus interior gets a lot of stimulation, as well as usual supporting muscle groups for every pressing move, like triceps, anterior deltoid, and coracobrachialis. Volume of 2 to 3 sets and 6 to 10 repetitions each. This is very similar exercise to incline barbell press. Only difference is that dumbbells allows us greater range of motion, and therefore additional stimulation of mostly upper fibers of the chest region. Additionally, for stabilization, besides our usual muscles involved, incline dumbbell press includes upper and lower portion of trapezius muscle and short head of the bicep. You can change the angle of the incline. Higher angle creates more front delt involvement. Only do 1 incline pressing exercise in your chest routine. If you do incline barbell press, avoid this exercise. To learn more on time under muscle tension for the best muscle gains, you can see True Bodybuilding series for each muscle group. This is very effective exercise to build mass on the upper chest area and reach fibers of the inner upper chest region. Incline dumbbell flies can create a greater range of motion and therefore more intense muscle contraction that would lead to more muscle growth. For flying movement, I especially like to emphasize tempo and make sure that I have slow eccentric phase of the movement, complete isometric contraction on the bottom, and slow concentric contraction. I would use this exercise for shape and definition, for red muscle fibers, and use lighter weight and high repetition protocol. 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 15 repetitions. This is another flying movement which I find more isolating than pressing chest exercises. Flat bench dumbbell flies are my all-time favorite exercise to establish mind-muscle connection for all of my clients. Success rate is overwhelming, and if you carefully analyze this clip, you will notice that I really don't lift weights in this exercise. I'm only contracting my pec muscles as hard as I can throughout the whole set. I like to use even slower tempo than this and be certain that muscle tension is constant. I like to do 2 to 3 sets with about 10 repetitions each. Also, breathing rhythm is important. Inhaling as much as possible at the top position will expand the rib cage, stabilizing you so your muscles can fully contract. Hold your breath as you're rising the dumbbells from the bottom position until you pass the most difficult portion of the lift on the concentric phase. This is very versatile chest exercise that involves also back muscles, latissimus dorsi, teres major, and rhomboids. It is pre-contest favorite and enables us to make tremendous contraction at the bottom, and then by fully stretching our pecs at the top, we can generate muscle striations. Standing or leaning crossovers would always work inner portion of the chest muscles. Lower or sternal portion of the pecs is stimulated in standing position, bringing the hands close to our body. Leaning forward and bringing our hands across in front of us would involve upper inner area of the chest. Incline cable flies is not very common exercise. It's variation of the incline dumbbell fly, but some people prefer using cables as cables provide different kind of resistance. On the top of the movement, we can accomplish stronger contraction in comparison to dumbbells and reach those hard-to-reach inner upper fibers of the pec area. I would do 3 sets, 15 repetitions each. Incline cable press are done very, very rarely and only as a superset combination with incline cable flies. As a pre-exhaust method, we would pre-exhaust our pecs with incline cable fly and then just finish them off with the cable presses. I prefer using easy bar as it takes stress off my wrist and I'm able to use heavier weights and make this exercise a real compound move for muscle mass. I would use overload principle and activate more motor units and more muscle fibers. For every biceps exercise, however, we have to make sure to keep our elbows as close to the ground as possible. The standing easy bar curl stimulates medial head or short head of the biceps to a greater degree, and biggest stress upon the muscle occurs in the mid-range. I would like to explain the repetition protocols and amount of sets. As a training variables, repetitions and sets are very important. According to your goals, you can design your workout and you should determine what do you want to accomplish. If it's a strength, use low repetition sets in range of 1 to 5 per set. If it's muscle hypertrophy, your goal is to do between 6 and 5 repetitions. Seated dumbbell curl is very common biceps exercise. Here I'm using alternate dumbbell curl method using unilaterally one arm at a time. It works biceps, brachialis, brachioradialis, and pronator teres. A variety of different grips would change the stimulation upon muscle fibers of the elbow flexors. Preacher or squat bench curl is true biceps exercise. Stabilizes the upper arm, so cheating movement is out of question. In this position, greatest stress on the biceps occurs in the first part of the elbow flexion. That puts tremendous stress on the lower fibers of the biceps. I prefer to use dumbbells for this exercise, but occasionally I would alternate with easy bar or even cable preacher curls. I would use strict form and slow tempo, full stretch and a strong contraction every time I'm at the top of the movement. This is variation of a popular hammer curl. Using slow, controlled movement and neutral grip, this exercise puts emphasis on the long head of the biceps, brachialis and brachioradialis. Some people consider this forearm exercise, but I always put in my biceps routine. Preacher concentration curl is variation of a concentration dumbbell curl. As biceps is the strongest and more active, as forearms are supinated, this is a good choice and a great isolation exercise. Emphasis is on upper muscle fibers of the biceps. Remember, bad technique can slow your progress and cause the injury, so perform this exercise with control, with a slow concentric and eccentric contraction. Multiple set systems produce faster gains in muscle mass. If you do low reps, then do more sets. If you perform more exercises, you can perform fewer sets. Small muscle groups recover more quickly than large, and therefore they can handle more sets. Biceps is a good candidate for it. Concentration curl primarily work biceps, but brachialis and brachioradialis also get some stimulation. A supinated position is strongly affecting biceps. I always make sure that I rotate dumbbells slightly more at the top of the movement as I make peak contraction. This exercise stresses upper fibers of the biceps. Always use moderate to a slow speed and full range of motion. It is very easy to establish mind-muscle connection, so focus on the movement and not the weight. I would perform 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 15 repetitions are also involved. I would perform 3 warm-up sets with lighter weights, and then I would go all out on 3 heavy sets with 6 to 8 repetitions max. French press with easy bar. I'm going to show you several variations of this exercise. Easy bar laying triceps extension or French press stimulates mostly long head of the tricep. Holding the bar directly over your chest with pronated grip, slowly lower it to the forehead. Make isometric contraction at the bottom before extending your elbows and squeezing your triceps to the top. Try to keep your elbows stationary and close together. Dumbbell French press. Using neutral grip and dumbbells, we can emphasize lateral head of the triceps. In my True Bodybuilding series, arm training videotape, I would go into great detail about how various different grips, pronated, neutral, supinated, or semi-supinated, would affect different heads of the triceps. Also, how to get better stretch and still keep complete tension on triceps only. Which angles of the extension curve to use to maximally isolate the triceps. For people that prefer resistance that cables create over the free weights, cable French press is a good choice. Again, it can be done in numerous different ways. This is a very popular exercise for triceps. It's very important to work all three heads of the triceps muscle: long, medial, and lateral head. Using a rope, like we see here, press down would stimulate all three heads simultaneously. Stabilizing muscles in this movement would be deltoids, pectorals, and abdominals. This is a good choice for both heavy compound movement, white muscle fiber specific, and isolating exercise directed towards development of red muscle fibers for shape and definition. In specialized arm videotape of True Bodybuilding series, I would show you how just slight movement of elbow joint and direction of the concentric contraction can produce recruitment of muscle fibers from different areas of the tricep. If you use this exercise as muscle mass builder, do 3 sets, 6 to 8 repetitions. If you use this as a shape exercise, 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. One arm press down. This is exclusively isolation exercise for triceps, and I compare it to concentration curl for biceps. In all honesty, if you can establish mind-muscle connection in this exercise, you have a serious problem. As the only action is elbow extension, it's primarily triceps move, and stabilizers are really negligible. First part of the extension comes from medial head of the triceps, and then lateral head takes over, and as resistance becomes greater, long head also contributes. As an isolation exercise, I would say this is red muscle fiber specific, and therefore I would use high repetition protocols, 10 to 15 repetitions with each arm, and total of 2 to 3 sets. Dumbbell overhead extension. Another exercise with limitless possibilities for various grips and different muscle fiber involvement. In this video you can see that I'm using neutral grip and slow concentric and eccentric phase of the movement. This exercise performed in such way stresses all three heads of the triceps. Reverse grip would stimulate long head to a greater degree. It is essential that this and any other exercise that is red muscle fiber specific is performed in higher repetition protocols. Exercise has to be done as strictly as possible with full range of motion. This is the opposite movement of previous exercise. Here we have a wrist extension. Starting position is pronated grip, and wrist extension is accomplished by strong contraction of extensor muscles. They are located on the outer side of our forearms. Extensor muscles are extensor pollicis longus, extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi radialis, longus and brevis, abductor pollicis longus, and brachioradialis. This is variation of barbell wrist curl. This time we use unilaterally dumbbell wrist curls. Exactly the same muscles are involved, and those flexor muscles are flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor carpi radialis, and palmaris longus. Behind the back wrist curl. This is yet another forearm exercise that stimulates wrist flexors. As forearms are involved in all pulling movements that require strong grip, I would recommend to make your forearm training a regular practice. Seated hammer curl. This is a very popular exercise that many consider biceps exercise. For me, it's a combination of both biceps and forearm exercises. It involves brachialis and a lateral head of bicep, but also involves brachioradialis and all the flexors of the forearms. I would use 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions on each set. Squat is absolutely the best exercise you could perform. It stimulates every muscle in your thighs, 4 quadriceps muscles, 3 hamstrings muscles, and gluteus. Also, deep free weight squats would increase your metabolic rate more than any aerobic activity, and therefore it would burn tremendous amount of body fat. How to get the most out of squats, I would recommend my in-depth leg training video of True Bodybuilding series. Different stance, foot positions, and range of motion are crucial in determining which muscle is involved and to which degree. Another excellent exercise for the whole thigh area. Pec squats predominantly work quadriceps muscles, but in the instance that you perform deep knee bends, like you can see me doing on this video, you would include all the hamstrings muscles and glutes. When back is stabilized, hamstrings are not recruited to stabilize the knee, which puts stress on the ACL joint. For that reason, it's extremely important to do this exercise slowly, with continuous muscle tension, without any bounce at the bottom. For safety, different stance, narrow or wide, foot positions, forward or backwards, and isolating specific heads of quadriceps muscles, see detailed analysis of squats and hack squats on leg training tape of this series. This machine move is considered a great muscle mass builder. It enables us to use extremely heavy weights. I have seen people using more than 2,000 pounds. Many people can't or don't want to do squats, and for them, this is a good alternative. Every muscle of the thigh region is involved in this exercise. However, different foot positions could dramatically change stress on the particular area. Feet high on the platform or low, wide apart or close together, all work different muscle fibers. Leg press is also a great exercise to change tempo of execution to create phenomenal muscle response. I would urge you to try all the advanced techniques from my specialized tape. For start, try just super slow repetitions. Both leg press is not very common exercise, but I like to use it as alternative to lunges. In this position, I would have great range of motion, and every muscle of my thigh exercise is knee joint extension. Traditionally, this exercise is called leg extension, but many biomechanic and kinesiology experts would argue that leg extension takes place in hip joint. Therefore, they insist that bodybuilders should take new term and call it knee extension. For me, this is a great warm-up exercise during my off-season quadriceps training, and there is very good shape and definition exercise pre-contest. I like to perform both bilateral and unilateral versions